Welcome, 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 my friends, wherever you are in the world. Today, we're doing something really important. It's an update on Spain's visa and residency rules for 2025. As you know, these laws changed earlier this year, but also, as you know, if you've watched this show before, what the rules say and how they're interpreted at immigration offices can be two very different things. So, back with us today is the man who sees it all firsthand, Chris from Upsticks, and we'll be diving into what the law says, what the officials are actually doing and saying, and we'll give you some real life stories from people applying right now. We'll go through the good, the bad, and the downright confusing. And of course, we'll answer all of your questions live. So stick around, smash that like button, and prepare to get started. Oh, and we'll be choosing some goodie bag winners later on for the sender of the very best comments and questions. So don't miss that. That's later on in the show. We are going to help you all the way through so you can do the Spain thing too. That's one catchphrase. You're very welcome to YouTooSpain. There's another. Here comes the theme. There's another. Quick, let's do it. Oh, yes, that's powerfully groovy. Speaking of groovy, here's Chris from Upsticks. Hola, matey.
How you doing?
Oh, very good. It's been slightly wet today, as you probably guessed by the raincoat and the hat. I've got all kinds of devices to catch the water coming through the roof at the moment, the ceiling.
Oh, you got some leaks. Yeah, we've had some leaks. Hence why I'm actually at home at the moment as well. I've had to come due to a few bits and bobs, problems with the water and in the office. And I'm just watching myself. I can't see you at all. I've had to come on the mobile and I can't see you, but I've.
It's all right. You've seen me before.
I can see it.
You know what I look like.
I know, handsome devil.
Well, there's a first. I've not been called that for a long time, if ever. Yeah, it's going to be fun today.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, yes, I've had an outdoor gig yesterday in the sunshine, so it's a bit of a change. But yeah, I walked through the garden earlier and it was just complete whiteout. Normally you can see Computer from, from above from here, very close up, but no, couldn't even see it earlier on. You were lucky to see the trees in the garden before. But there you go.
Yeah, it's looking on. It's not raining right now, but it's looking ominous that it's going to rain. But then tomorrow, the rest of the week's supposed to be okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's good. It was a tornado, somebody said. Liz has been working over in Almuñécar, Granada province, and somebody reported a tornado. So they had to get indoors really, really quickly. And I think they opened the windows but shut the shutters, which is what you're supposed to do, because if you get hit by a tornado, it's like a vacuum and the windows blow outwards, or inwards or something. I don't know. So yeah, they did the right thing there.
Funny enough, when I lived in the north of Spain many years ago, 20 years ago, in Salou, in the Tarragona province, it used to be quite commonplace. You'd have, we'd get a lot there. I can remember I lived one winter, I was living on the third floor, and I just remember seeing a chair go flying past the window. Wow. And they were quite commonplace there. You've seen that was back before the days of digital cameras, so I haven't got that many photos. But.
Oh, here's a QI question for you. Do you know which country in the world has the most tornadoes?
Don't know. Is it not in Texas or United States?
No, it's the UK. Or England, I suppose, if you're going to go for one country. There's more there than anywhere else. Yeah, it's just that they're not as big as they are in Texas and wherever in America that gets the most. So yeah, There's a little factoid for you. So, any shout outs while we're talking about the weather? We could cover our whole show.
Oh, I've got a lot. I've got lots of shout outs. Actually, let me find them a bit discombobulated because I had to run back to do this. But yeah, Roger and Nigel, who got their visas, well done, guys. This is people I've spoken to. Actually, I always ask people if I'm allowed to say their names, obviously. And Sheila and David today, who got their visas, and we will be having some some really good news coming up on Wednesday about the visa turnaround times, and that does include Manchester as well. So yeah, we're after that very dodgy sort of 3-week period, albeit that we've had one visa today that was 15 weeks and 3 days, or not that they were counting. That was David and Sheila. Well done, guys. You've now got your visa. But yeah, they have been dropping in from Manchester, so that's all good news.
Brilliant. And we have Tony Silcock, who's on the live chat, saying, "Evening, guys. Got your email this morning. Chris will post tomorrow. Cheers." That is good. Brilliant. And Stephen Moody says, "Hola" from Steve and Pauline. And they're the only two on the live chat at the moment, although we've definitely got more people watching and listening than that. So if you haven't left a message, then put one on the live chat, even if it's just a wave, just to say hello and tell us who you are and who's on the show. Anybody from the US on today? It's one of the reasons we moved this show to an evening instead of a Saturday morning. So if you're on from anywhere else in the world than the UK, then let us know. That's good to know. And let's see. Well, while we're waiting for that, let's just get straight on with the topic. So first of all, Chris, let's have a quick summary of the new rules, especially the ones covering the non-lucrative visa. But you can just give a summary of what happened when the new rules came out, really. And just keep it short for this one, because we're going to open up and do a bit more of a deeper dive in a minute.
Yeah, so basically we had a new regulamento, which means new law come in on the 20th of November. Actually, it was passed but didn't come into force until the 20th of May, which basically it brought in an awful lot of other types of residency. If you remember, we did the program about EU Spanish family members. That's a brand new residency platform, and other things which don't really relate to our demographic watchers, like arraigos, but it also changed some things surrounding the non-lucrative visa. One of the biggest changes was on the finance side of things, what documents you needed to prove that you could support yourself. So nobody really knew what was going to happen, and now we're exactly, I think, 6 months after the fact. So we've got the experience now with the renewals and the initial visas of what they're accepting and what they're not.
Excellent summary. And by the way, viewers, don't forget to check out Chris's Upsticks website and YouTube channel. He was talking about Wednesday evening earlier on. There's a live update every Wednesday evening on Upsticks YouTube, and lots of information, articles and videos between the website and the YouTube. So keep an eye out for that. It's lots of fun, the Wednesday evening show, as well as being informative. And don't forget also, there's a QR code up in the corner, as well as a super link in the video description. If you learned something of value to you today, or if you've been entertained, then use the link to donate a cup of coffee, or 3 or 5 or 979, whatever you think today's show is worth to you. And I'll announce some special offers in 10 or 15 minutes, so stay right where you are. You were going to say something, Chris, weren't you? I interrupted you with QR codes.
Yeah, no, you could. I was just saying that, like, the Wednesday show is obviously completely different to this. It's literally is just everything that's happened during the week regurgitated to us, because we're sort of work in a live situation a lot of the time. That's all the Wednesday show is. Every time something happens, it just gets thrown into that sort of Wednesday show folder, and we talk about it. So and that's where hopefully we could use this show to deep dive into a lot of the subjects that I pick up with there, because I don't really do it anywhere else.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's good. It's good to have that link. Yeah. And yes, and whenever I do a short, a YouTube short, then I try and link in with your show and mine. Oh, you've gone all sideways. It's your phone falling over. You're doing it all on your phone today, aren't you? Yeah. Or is it your laptop?
Unfortunately, no, it's the phone, because someone ate the cable for the webcam.
Oh, was it Raoul or was it the dog?
It was the dog. It was the dog.
Never mind. Let's just have a look at the live chat.
Talk about yourselves while I just...
Yeah. Let's say hello to Hamza Zati, There we go. And we also have Alexander Ballantyne saying good evening from a cold but dry Kilmarnock. From Alex and Helen. I almost attempted the accent then, but no, I don't know what the Kilmarnock. That probably wasn't at all. Alexander, you're free to tell me off. And David Tunma says, good evening, chaps. Collecting my TIE card tomorrow from Malaga. Unfortunately, but to all you guys out there, you need someone like Chris. Gets it right every time, been with us every step of the journey. Lovely. So big thanks there. Okay,
Right.
how's it going on, Chris? All we can see is your hand at the
Oh,
moment.
and just put. Oh dear.
Yeah. Oh no. You froze a minute there. Yeah.
Hang on a minute. It's
all high tech stuff that's going on. That's better. Yes. It's funny you put it on.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. It was funny just before the show started. Chris put it on a different setting, and suddenly he was just like this one huge head on the screen. But yes, we all seem to be balanced. You're just leaving your hand there for the whole show.
I'm gonna use the fly whacker to balance you. This is all high tech stuff here at Upsticks. I can tell you.
This is Heath Robinson demonstrated.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Oh, look at that! Fantastic.
Oh, look, that's super. Yes, don't touch it ever again.
Oh, that's it. We're not touching it again.
Lovely. Alexander says, lovely accent. Brilliant. And Homestead Ireland says, hi, Skatz. I've forgotten who you are, Homestead Ireland. I know. I've communicated with you quite a lot, but I've forgotten your name. Hi, Skatz. So pleased you are well. We definitely need better news to be able to move to Spain. Yes, absolutely. We'll give you as much good news as you can. Yes. This isn't normal with the rain dripping in, but I now know where to place the bins that I've got over there. Some plastic waste paper bins, and I've got a T-shirt draped over my second screen and another T-shirt on underneath my light, which is not good. There's water dripping from the light. That's a bit scary. And I've got a towel across my lap because there's usually a drip about there, and that's why I'm wearing the hat. This is Walter's hat, by the way. He normally wears it like that. Hello. There you go. Let's move on from. We've had the summary, so let's do a bit of a deeper dive now into the new rules. So, take us through the main points and explain why they're all important to know.
Yeah. So, the main points were. I say there's an awful lot to the new law, but the main thing was the finances. And there's also something else to bring up regarding criminal records as well. But for the finances, things for the initial and for the renewals have definitely got slightly stricter. So there was a long list in the new law which basically stipulated that they wanted 12 months worth of bank account statements, that they were going to want to know the balance of the account on the 31st of the year previous to the application, and lots of other sort of crazy requirements like stamped documents from the bank, which is nigh impossible to get. So what we found was when the law first kicked in, there was sort of a period within the first month where all of those crazy requirements basically came back to us straight away in what they call requirement emails and letters from the consulates. The consulate just cut and pasted the law into. You nearly lost me. There you go.
No.
I'm back. Don't do that. No. They basically just cut and paste the law into these sort of like requirement letters, and nobody really knew what was going on. But what we found was that it used to be a case of, if you had in Manchester, it actually got down to one point just 3 months bank account statements, and that was it. Okay, and other places like Edinburgh used to flip between 6 and 12 months, and now across the board in all three consulates, first of all, they want to see at least a 12 months worth of your, should we say, previous financial history. That's just across the board now for every single consulate. And what we found is obviously it's very, very difficult for a lot of people to give them the exact documentation that they were requesting. So the first thing being stamps, for example. Now, apart from the fact that stamps on a document, anybody can get a stamp. Go to Vistaprint and we can get Upsticks validate stamps if you like. I don't know. It's ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. We know that it doesn't really validate anything, and getting one from a bank is hard work. And to be honest, when you do get one, all it says is the sort code of the bank, and that's it. It doesn't. There's no sort of verifying feature apart from the address where the account's held. But anyway, what we've found is that the high street banks generally will still do that, but you have to push them quite a lot. And those documents are accepted. And if you just can't get a stamp because you've got an online account, or you've got an account where there just isn't a branch next to you, then the best thing to do is try and get something from that bank, either a letter or some sort of proof that it is in fact an online account. It sounds crazy. Maybe it's part of your contractual agreement, but just so you can back it up when you do give them your statements and say, look, the fact we haven't got the stamps is because it's absolutely impossible to get, and this is why. So I'm not too sure if I can say bank names. Am I allowed to say bank names on here?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So if they're reporting on what they're doing.
Banks like NatWest, for example, generally have no problem giving stamps. First Direct, which I think is online, that's one of the ones that jumps into my mind, which you just can't, And so really it's a case of the due diligence in the finances now that you present has to be basically very, very, very tight. And also it's a very good idea to present a letter to the consulate, which is always said as a presentation letter is good, but really making the explanation of your finances pretty idiot proof. So if you're handing in 12-month bank account statements, should be 12 months bank account statements, and if there's a letter saying it's online, letter saying it's online. Okay. So that's the first thing that that you need to make sure is that whatever happens, you give them those 12 months worth of your finances. And bearing in mind, there's so many different financial structures, it's probably going to generate so many different questions here. It's unbelievable, but that's what we sort of deal with every day because everybody's got a different financial structure. So trying to generalize it is really difficult. But that's the first point. The second point is that, and lots of people say, well, hang on a minute, it's okay. I can provide 12 months worth of statements. I can do this, but the money doesn't go into the bank until 3 weeks before our appointment. Does it have to be in there for 6 months? No, it doesn't have to. I know in other countries it does, but so far with our experience since the new law, okay, it doesn't have to be in there for a determined amount of time, but if you have a large amount of money being moved into an account, which commonly at times comes from something like a house sale, maybe, then you have to be able to prove the origin of those funds. Okay, so it may be a completion statement and some sort of registry document proving that you've sold the property. The completion statement would need to be from your lawyers, proving that they dealt with the case of the sale on your behalf. If you have cashed in a pension or taking say your 25% cash-free lump sum before becoming a fiscal resident in Spain, then you would have proof from your pensions company that you've taken that amount, and that should correspond with what's gone into the account.
What's the main reason for them wanting proof for that then?
So just mainly money laundering laws are tighter, making sure nobody's lent you money for a visa. It is a non-lucrative visa. It's a visa where you're not allowed to work. So, they want to make sure. And again, we don't really, when I say have a younger demographic of client, it's very rare that we have anybody who's under 50. Most people are retiring. There's quite a blatant retirement package that we put together for our clients to present. Often I'll say, people ask me, well, do you think I qualify? I'll be like, well, you are typically an NLV applicant, because we can quite blatantly see you've got no more plans of working. So, but they do want to see the origin of those funds to make sure. It could be a money laundering thing. It's also to make sure that nobody's just lent you money, so you're getting the visa, because that gets your foothold in Spain, and then you may stay there illegally and become part of Spain's problem. Who knows? But yeah, they're definitely very, very, very strict on that.
If they're looking at young people then moving over, do they look a bit deeper and look ahead further, not just for the first year, but do they ask you how are you going to survive for the full 5 years?
Yeah, they shouldn't do. Now, as I say, we don't have that many young people. I don't know, creeping up myself to 50. So that's anybody who's between 40 and 50 will consider young still. But yes, they shouldn't do, because basically if you qualify for that first year, you can prove the origin of the funds, or you've got money to support yourself. There shouldn't be any reason why they do, but we know they do. We know that they do look at the younger applicants with a fine-tooth comb. And the thing is about it, there isn't any problem with coming in on NLV, and if you want to try and swap to a different residency platform legally afterwards, well, fair enough. But they do look at younger people a lot stricter from what we've seen.
That's good to know. So any other points about the NLV that's changed?
Yeah, still on the point of the finances. What we did have was this year was some real problems and questions asked surrounding people who have a combination of both savings and passive recurring income. Yeah. So if you've got, say, for example, 20,000 euros, let's just talking euros for the time being, in passive recurring income, i.e. pensions, but it's a couple and you're missing 16,000 to make up the 36 for the first year, then we had a couple of cases. We actually had 2 rejections this year. Which I'm very happy to say got overturned. And it was basically they just hadn't done the maths right. We presented it in a letter and we said, this is the passive recurring income. It's going into this account. It was actually 2 state pensions, which is pretty obvious that it was, because it coincides with the S1 document. So, you can make that correlation. And then there was savings, which were held in a savings account, which is an instant access ISA, and we proved that as well. And they initially rejected it, which actually meant we didn't have a lot more to go back with. And the only thing we really went back with was updated statements and a deeper explanation as to why it should be approved. And we think, I'm very sorry that you haven't considered and done the maths properly, and we just laid the maths out in the appeal letter, and luckily it came back a week later approved. So it was, to me, that just was blatant that they hadn't actually done the maths, and they qualified, but with a combination of both, which is great news, because I've seen a lot of people out there say, well, you have to have your passive recurring income. If it doesn't meet it, you can't get it, or it has to be all savings. No, it can still be a combination of the both. It's just your due diligence on the explanation of that has to be a lot deeper.
In case there's a new guy in the office, maybe.
We haven't. Well, I mean, that was this. So this is like the initial application, really. So there's so many different structures we've dealt with. We've had investment structures as well, where what we've had to do is go back to investment houses, get the certificate of the initial investment and the current balance, which proves basically the average balance, which shows it, and show what the penalties were to actually access that investment, because the person who was applying didn't need 28,800 euros a year to live on, because they owned a property. They did have cash to live on, but the investment put them over the line for the qualification criteria. That helped, and it worked. So, it was just a case of, hang on a minute, if you were to put this in front of somebody and they didn't understand it, how would they go to their boss and say, it's okay, I've qualified this one? That's how you've always got to think, Imagine they've got somebody over their shoulder going, why have you qualified them? Well, that's why, because they've explained it and they meet the criteria.
So these letters can be really important, can't they? The explanatory letters, because you're just laying it out point by point.
I must have written about 50 so far, and that's not the requirement letter. So we get to the renewal. So the renewal, we know that the consulate still isn't requiring translated finances. Okay, so that's one good thing. We thought that the consulate was going to be asking for the finances to be translated, which is an absolute nightmare. Okay, it really is, because you can imagine pages and pages of there's state pension, Tesco's, Amazon, all in the same one. It's ridiculous. So yeah, they're not at the moment. But I suppose just wrapping up with the initial visa applications for people who are looking to apply in 2027, 2028, 2029, simplifying your cash assets, your income, and not mixing it maybe with your day-to-day, is a really, really good idea. So it's as simple as possible. For people who are going through the application process, or people who are applying next year, don't worry if you haven't done this already, because the files are going through. But just a bit of advice for the next 2 or 3 years would be for people who are looking at it, keep it simple. If you've got passive recurring pension income, maybe keep that into one high street account, so you can go in, joint account, and say, there you go, guys, this is what I get. These are the P60s as well, the letters from the state pension, it all coincides, off we go. Keeping it simple is key.
Yeah, absolutely. Not that they're simple, but you're just making their job easy, aren't you?
Yes, yeah, just making the job easy, because you've got to remember as well the quantity, of applications which are going in. I don't have figures on me, but we just know from the amount of inquiries we've got compared to when it started to now. Plus, they're not just dealing with NLVs. One of the biggest problems we've had since the new law came in was people going to the BLS office, and it happened, I don't know what happened from the start, and then we'd get like a 2 or 3 requirement letters saying, oh, I need a P45, or I need the S1. And I spoke to the clients and said, well, we had the conversation like a day before you went, and it was all ticked off, the checkbox was done, brilliant. They went, oh yeah, but they told me they didn't need it. So you just believe the person behind the desk, don't you? So and then the consulate just sends you a letter saying we need that, and they're like, well, we've got it here because they told us we didn't need it. So another bit of advice is always make sure that whoever's helping you, you take what they tell you to take, and if they say they don't need it, say take it anyway.
Belt and braces.
Got some braces.
Yeah, let's just have a look at the live chat, because Hamza Zati said something a little while back. Says, I have NLV Residencia IHOP. Get 4 years after 1 year already. I renewed the residency and I am waiting now. Are you thinking that you get 4 years on your renewal? Because that didn't happen, did it, Chris?
No, it didn't happen. It was just it was in the draft law, and it didn't happen. It was never going to happen, really. Yep. Yeah. So
okay. Is that what you meant, Hamza? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know whether that was whether it's a misprint or whether it's an abbreviation that I haven't heard of. So yes,
you'll get if you're in an NLV, you'll get 2 years. And with the renewals, the financials have changed quite a bit, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, we'll go into that in a minute. I just wanted to pass on greetings again from one of my regular guests, who's part of our network of experts that YouTooSpain and Upsticks have. She's offering watchers of this show a special offer, and here it is. There's a very short video, so enjoy this. Lovely. And yes, Charisse's details are in the video description and the comments, so you can contact her at your leisure. Oh, and don't forget, there's still a special offer on for the rest of this month for YouTooSpain watchers with our trusted friends Smart Currency Exchange. So don't forget to use that link below. There's no obligation. Plus, you'll actually be helping YouTooSpain as well at no extra cost to you. And that is, as I always say, a win-win-win with a cherry on top. Marvellous. And let's see. Okay, back to you, Chris. Then, any more financial rules that you need to talk about, or do we move on to the next one?
We can move. Yes, I could with the renewals. Shall we do the renewals now, and then I can go back to the criminal record thing?
Yeah,
that
good
we're going
plan.
to talk about. Yeah.
Oh, Russ Camp says hello, by the way. That's another one joined us. Nice to see you, Russ. Carry on then. Renewals.
So for the renewals, we have seen, the disparity across the different provinces has been crazy. Now we work across Malaga, Murcia, Alicante, our big three, but we do touch Cadiz, Granada, and it's been an absolute roller coaster, I can tell you, because sometimes some of the stuff we've been asked for has been absolutely incredible. Like for Malaga, for example, it's just crazy. Only recently we submitted an account from a client which was translated. And they came back to us and asked for an digitally electronic signature from Barclays Bank.
Oh.
We specifically want, and it doesn't exist, does it? Doesn't exist. But then it was sort of a cut and paste on this letter. But then they had the typical, all documents have to be translated, and if they come from abroad, legalized and apostilled. Now, most all documents in English, albeit 90% of that document is numbers, still has to be translated. It has to be translated by a legal translator, somebody who can legally verify a translation in Spain. Okay, not just anybody. All right, and that person obviously charges very well for that qualification. Now they're very strict on that now. So, but if you equate that to somebody who might have two accounts from the UK that are receiving their pensions into them P60s as well, we're talking a lot of translations, quite a lot of money's worth of translation,
Hundreds.
So again, So going back to keeping it simple, if people are moving forward, definitely any cash assets which are held in Spain are better received than any which are in accounts in the UK. Not saying you can't use UK accounts, you certainly can, and you can get them translated, but the cash assets which are held in Spain, they're always the quicker ones to come through approved. I can tell you that now. Even more so. So we've got some clients. We recently had a client who had the passive recurring income transferred into their Spanish account along with the cash assets that they were using, and it was a combination of both. But because they saw the 6 months, not a year, they give them a year's worth of statements, but they saw 6 months, because that's how long it took to organise for it to come in, plus a P60 and a state pension letter, and that was absolutely fine. There was actually no translations needed on that case because we just wrote the letter showing. But from places like Malaga, we've seen requests for apostilled documents, which you can't get bank account statements apostilled, so you have to have them notarized to prove their origins and then apostilled and then translated. A slight breakthrough we had was talking to Zach actually from Apostille UK. He said that a lot of people use a solicitor rather than a notary to verify the documents, because they hold the power to be able to do that and to get the apostille. Rather in Spain, it's not like that. You can only get a notary. And we tried that in a couple of cases. That worked, so that was good because that reduces the cost liability to the client. And so Malaga have been extremely strict in their processes when it comes to asking for apostilles, electronically verified documents, which doesn't exist, and crazy stuff. We've managed to get around most of them, and we've got a few cases we're still waiting to come out. Literally this morning we had a case where they asked for an average balance on an account which wasn't going to meet the minimum required amount because the clients don't need it, but they had an investment, and the investment is it. We got that apostilled and
Yeah.
explained that this meets the minimum required amount, but they just don't need it. This is their savings pot, and they're just putting a little bit in now and then, and they accepted that. So, whereas Murcia in Alicante, again, it is 12 months worth of statements, but they seem to be not any requests from apostilles from Murcia Alicante yet. Okay, and that's 6 months down the line. And on some occasions, we've actually only translated maybe half the documentation and then just explained that the rest of the documentation was repeated numerical information, so it would be ridiculous, and they've accepted that as well.
What is the actual rule then, and why are they all interpreting it so differently?
It's crazy. Granada, actually, I wonder if I could bring it up here. I could find it for you. Hang on a minute. See if I can find it. Granada did a classic because they just cut and paste the actual law. I said, we want this. And the law's actually nuts. Should have sent it to you beforehand, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
I didn't think.
You were in such a rush, weren't you? Getting out of the rain.
Yeah, it's been a bit crazy. Yeah, so basically the law is, and I'll bring it up here now, because they want 12 months worth of bank account statements. They want an average balance over the last 12 months, a certificate from your bank from the 31st of December stating what your balance was. We don't present many of those, and they don't seem to request it unless they specifically request what was the balance on the 31st of December of the previous year, like Granada did. Then the client couldn't do that because they didn't have a balance from the 31st December, but we did have balances from before and after, and we gave them the average balance in a letter, the two statements, and they accepted that. So it's not that they're unreasonable, but I can't find it now. But they are very strict with what you're presenting.
Oh, just a quick question from the live chat. While I remember, Richard Dreyer says, Hola, approximately how long are the 4 to 5 year NLVs taking, the renewals?
Which province? So anything from a month to 4 months to come through. Doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. I did have a question the other day about someone that said to me, well, is it consecutive, i.e. the first one that comes in is the last one that comes out, so that's not our experience. They seem to come out but slightly more haphazard, even more so in Malaga as well. Malaga, we put some in and I'm like, how on earth did that get approved? They just got one that got approved recently and their actual card hasn't expired yet, so we have to wait to book their appointment, right? Whereas some go in a month before expiry and go right the way to the 90 days after expiry when we don't get it. So unfortunately, it's the Murcia seems to take the longest, but they seem to come out more in order. Alicante more so, but if you get a requirement letter from Alicante and you respond with more documents, it seems to take ages to get back to you. Malaga, they're all over the place, but when you do answer a requirement letter, they get you the resolution quick. So it really depends where you are.
That's good to know. Whereabouts are you, Richard? Tell us in the comments then, and when is it due? So that'll be handy to know. And in the meantime, Lauren Georgiou says, "Hi, better late than ever." That should be never for me joining. There we go. So where are we up to then?
I think we're going to talk about criminal records, weren't we, as well?
We were, yes. We said we'd go back to that. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
And give some examples about. Sorry. Carry on.
Yeah, no, brilliant. So before us, we used to know that there was no trace, no live trace was okay, for the new law. And then Manchester got slightly more tricky with the no live traces. But what we've actually seen is because they slightly changed the law, and it says as long as you're not a threat to public order, then you could be considered, albeit you've got a criminal record. Is we've actually seen so London and Edinburgh again, no live trace, no trace. So far, so good. No more questions asked. Manchester consulate. If you have no live trace, you have to, and it's best you just do it from the start. Okay, explain and provide. There's a second page to an ACRO which shows what the offence was that's been stepped down. That needs to be provided with an explanation as to what the offence is, okay, and what happened basically, and that can be included in your presentation letter. But we have found that when people have done that, they've sort of ignored it for some reason, whether they won't read them or not, and then come back and ask for a further explanation. We've extracted that explanation from the presentation letter, put it in its own letter, and they've accepted it.
Oh, okay.
So we should indicate they haven't read the letter, I suppose. But
yeah, and what kind of things are they stopping you? Are they rejecting you for on the ACRO?
They don't reject you. It's non-live, so they're not actually. And dare I say this now? I always say, because we don't take on cases that don't have no live or trace. We only take on cases that have no trace or no live trace. But there's been 2 occasions where we've had to present NLVs when something's actually been on the ACRO. And this would just be a no. That would have been a no before the new law. And both with further explanation were actually accepted.
Yeah.
So you can see now that they are looking at them on an individual case basis, because the law does say if you don't seem to be a threat to public order, then it's still possible to get your visa. So I imagine if it had been a violent crime and recent, that you would have no chance. But say, for example, it was maybe it was a financial misdemeanor, for example, and it's showing on your ACRO, but you do qualify for the visa, then not being a violent crime, you might have a chance to get a visa.
Yeah. So they don't mind people who are a bit fraudy then.
No. As long as you haven't punched anybody in the pub, you can do as much fraudulent.
Brilliant.
That's it. Let's not talk about Spain's government. Sure.
Yes, indeed.
That's what they do. They could just blame it. It was him. It was him with the ACRO. He did it. Nothing to do with us. Let's get rid of the golden visa and try and smoke and dance us.
Yeah. No, politicians are as honest as the day is long, and we're coming up to the shortest day. So there we go. We have another quite a long live chat message from La Ronda house sitting retiree. Very nice. Hello and good morning from California. Yay! Late to the party, but I made it. Love the channel. It's been very helpful. I'm a retiree in the process of applying for the NLV. Excellent. Well, lovely to meet you. Thanks for joining in. And yes, keep joining us. I'll tell you who's on next week later on in the show, but it is somebody from the USA who is now living here, who might be very helpful to you. There you go. So join us next week for that. So yes, carry on. Anything else about the ACRO?
No, that's about it really. I mean, don't forget also they've now extended it to a 6-month validity, so your ACRO is now valid for 6 months rather than 3. So that's good.
Have there only been? Let's get my words in the right order. Have there been any rule changes that have affected people that you've helped through the system that are different from before, or they've had an adverse effect on their application?
Certainly on the switchover, when we had people who were going through the 20th of May, we noticed the difference in the requirement letters, and there was a couple there which took a lot longer than they should have done, because it would have been X documents before, and then suddenly they decided that they were going to change everything. It's going to be X documents afterwards. We had the new law in place, we saw what it was, but a lot of it didn't make sense, and until you get that interpretation, you don't know what to tell the next person, do you? So that was a fun time. May, June, July was a fun time for us, because it was when you get the requirement letters saying we actually want 12 months bank account statements, we want this, we want that you start learning what the actual nuances of each consulate and each province is when you're doing the renewals. One of the things which they have tightened up on in the provinces for the NLV renewals is also proof of the healthcare. So you've got to be able to prove not only you've got healthcare moving forward, but where you've held your healthcare, especially for the second renewal for the previous 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always good to make sure that you keep your documents in check and make sure that, because if there's no problem with changing healthcare companies, there's no problem with swapping from private to S1. You can do that. There's no problem with swapping from private to convenio especial, but you can never have a break,
Mm-hmm.
and you must be able to prove during that whole period you've had the healthcare.
Yes, not even a break of 1 day. It's very important, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, not even a break of 1 day.
Yeah. Did you have a,
So
did you
that's,
were
and
you
they,
talking about, was it last week you were talking about one client who had a break because of the date that was on the S1 or the private insurance? I can't remember what you said about that, but there was a short break and what they had to do was go back to the insurance company and get them to amend that because they were actually covered, but it was just something to do with that. I
yeah.
can't remember the exact story, but yeah.
Yeah, there was ended up being a back payment to prove that the person was covered during that time. They ended up paying a bit more money to something that they didn't really need to do, and the insurance, because they just basically took the money and gave them the updated certificate for expired cover,
Yeah,
really, which money for old rope, that, isn't it? But
yeah,
helped them get their certificate, So
yeah.
so yeah, but yeah, that's why you got to make sure you got to be careful, and also, things. Make sure you keep a history. If you swap, there's nothing wrong with swapping from a beneficiary S1 to your own S1, for example. A lot of people do that. Okay, so a lot of people will, during the period, especially our demographic of client, maybe start with private healthcare, then they'll get an S1 and they'll get an S1 as a beneficiary because maybe one of the couple has got the S1 first, and another year later,
Hmm.
the second half of the couple becomes a state pensioner, has the right to their own healthcare, not being a beneficiary, registers that. Okay, but just make sure that you keep all that documentational proof because you've got to prove there was no breaks during that period.
Hmm. You're touching it again. I can see.
And it was just about to slip off.
You got to get. I've got one of these. I shall have to bring it next time I see you. I'm trying to look for it. It's a special little stand that goes on the desk.
Well,
Oh yeah, you're using that one. Yeah.
I got this,
Well, that should
yeah,
be
but
really good.
I
Oh, it
think
goes all floppy. That's not good. I've got something that you can
it's good
just.
if you charge it.
I've got one that you can just screw onto the desk, and it's just a fixed thing. Like yeah, it just screws on, and that's it. It's solid. That's what you want, I think. There you go.
It's good if you charge it. That's the problem. I think you're supposed to charge these things.
You are, yes. Yeah, I've got one of them. I've not used it for a while because my phone's too big. When I got this present phone, which is a while ago. It's only like the iPhone 11
Mhm.
Pro Plus or whatever it's called, but it's slightly too big and too heavy for the weight of the thing. So occasionally it starts to wobble off to one side because it's just a lot longer than it should be. So yeah. Anyway, these are all first world problems that we have, aren't they? So
Yeah.
any other rule change that has affected people or different officials interpreting the rules in different ways? Have you got any stories about that?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's mainly the main stories regarding the finances. That's it. The other big change, obviously, we had was the 365-day visa
Oh yeah.
for the NLVs.
And how's that gone?
And I need to do an update video on that, actually. But yeah, so far, so good. Now, again, speaking to the officials, we're talking now about what we call stage 2. So we break it down into stage 1, preparation of getting your visa all the way to the point where you go and apply for it. Then when the visa's in your hand, you go into stage 2. And stage 2 is the ratification of the visa in Spain.
Mhm.
Now, everybody who's got a 365-day visa has been given a year's residency from the date that they entered Spain.
Mhm.
Okay. But what we haven't had yet is anybody who's got over the 3-month period that they used to give you. So everybody who we've been working with wants to come and live here anyway. They don't want to hang about.
Yep.
So we have only had one person who's had multiple entries on the visa, and
Oh, you're frozen, Chris, right in the middle of that
from
sentence.
you still hear me?
I can now. Can
I'm
you just go
back.
back to the beginning of the sentence there that you were doing? What happened to this client?
Yeah, so we've had one person who's had multiple entries and got given a sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can. Yes, there was a little break, but you were all right there. Can you
Cool.
hear me? Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, you're right. So there's everybody's been getting a year from their entry in Spain, which is great.
Yep.
But obviously, no, we're going to see entry stamps disappearing, aren't we, very soon?
Yep.
So that's something we're going to have to report back on. And also, we've had one client who had a couple of multiple entries, and they got awarded a year from the second entry into
Yeah.
Spain. So we're yet to see anybody who's had to completely delay their entry into Spain on the 365 visa for 4, 5, 6 months to see what they get awarded. The the commissarias are saying it's going to be a year, but I can't see when you get towards the back end of that visa term how they would give you a year. So it's going to be interesting to see the first ones we have. But so far, it's basically normal as everybody's getting a year from their entry stamp.
Right. So it's the same as what it used to be. But doesn't it suggest in the rule that it was going to be from the date of your appointment or the date when they actually gave you the visa?
Yeah, from the start date of the visa. Now, what a lot of people are doing, people who we had a couple of people who've travelled through France, haven't got declaraciones de entrada as they've come into Spain. Declaración de entrada is when you go to the police station and say, "Hey, I'm here. That's my entry stamp." It's a replacement for an entry stamp, for example. And they've actually been given the start date of the visa. They said, "Well, you haven't got an entry stamp, so we don't know how long you've been here, so we're going to give you the start date of the visa
Uh-huh.
as your residency date." So, and that happened quite a lot actually before, and still happening now.
Fair enough. We have on the live chat there Jose Elizondo Music. Lovely fellow musician. Hi, thanks for the very helpful info. Can you apply for the NLV while you are travelling in a third country, or do you have to do it from your country of residence? I know the answer to this one. You have to do it from your country of residence. Anything else they need to know, Chris?
Yeah. Yep, and if you have lived anywhere for more than 6 months in the previous 5 years, you have to have criminal records from that place, from that country as well. Criminal records check.
Handy to know, yes. But it has to be that you're sort of registered as a resident in that country. Is that right?
Yeah. So if you, again, we've had a couple of clients recently who had spent 4 years in France. And not quite 5 years, had to get a criminal records check at Crow because they'd spent a year in the UK before they went to France, 4 years in France, and they had to get a French one as well, now coming here on an NLB.
Uh-huh.
So if you've been less than 4 years in the country you're applying from, do criminal records check for the previous country.
Brilliant. Hope that answers your question, Jose. And Budori, hello, welcome back. Not seen your name for a few weeks. The latest NLV forms confirm that an applicant who wishes to continue to work in the UK is eligible for the NLV. Has Chris processed any applications on this basis?
No, well, I'd like to know what you're referring to there because they still tell us you can't work. In fact, when you go to your appointment, you have to prove that you're not
You've
working.
stopped. Mm.
You stop. So you have to prove that, and again, it's something that they've tightened up on a lot. You have to prove with either a P45. Now, the common questions are, well, if I get a P45 and I start work tomorrow, how are they going to know? Well, I don't know. We don't work for the consulate, but they definitely would a P45. If you are registered as self-employed, then they want to see a letter from HMRC officially confirming when you have deregistered and the date that you deregistered. And HMRC will issue those letters, but sometimes it takes 2 or 3 attempts on the phone to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And recently we had a case where somebody had lost their P45. They'd given up work more than 5 years ago, and basically they got the downloaded PAYE history from their government gateway, and had that translated. We did translate that, belts and braces, and just wrote a letter saying this is the equivalent of what we call a vida laboral
Oh, you're frozen again.
as well.
Can you hear me now? Are you still there?
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
got a dodgy internet connection.
Yeah. It only goes for a few seconds. We're heading up to the hour now, and I've got a
Yeah.
reply. This this sounds like a quotation from the form. Yes, it is. This is what it says on the form. If you intend to keep your job in the UK, evidence that, due to the nature of your job, you can effectively reside in Spain and at the same time carry out your job in the UK. So
No,
that's what
you
it says
can't.
on the form.
I know on the Edinburgh checklist, I think it says that you can't.
Okay.
Unequivocally, you can say you can't. We haven't
Okay.
processed anything like that, but they tell us no. In fact, the amount of requirement letters that we get saying further prove that you're not working and have no intention to work is incredible.
Uh-huh.
Even when P45s are provided.
Righty ho. Oh, Laronda has another question from the USA. I have a question about translating documents. We did actually, we were talking about this before you came online there, but don't worry, we'll answer it again. Do bank accounts need to be translated? Also, does the translator need to be sworn or certified in Spain?
Not in the UK, but I believe in the US they do. Unfortunately, we don't manage stage one in the US, but it's my understanding that depending on the consulate you go to, that in the US they do need to be translated. But they wouldn't be certified in Spain. The sworn translator is already their stamp as a certification in Spain as such, because that's a person who is qualified at a college, colegiados they call them. Yeah. But yeah, I couldn't answer directly without knowing the consulate, I'm afraid, but it's the US, we don't really deal with it.
That's one for next week, I think. And yes, that's my guest next week, and see if he knows about. Hopefully will have details of different consulates over there based on his experience. There we go. Then we'll get you an even fuller answer. Lovely. Anything else we need to tell people, Chris, so we can get off on the hour? I've got chicken coming out of the air fryer at about 7 o'clock, so I'm looking forward to that.
Don't know what I've got to check. No, I think that's about it. You know, for the renewals, it's just a lot stricter than what it was. You know, both on the finance and the healthcare. Everything else has been running really well. But look, you know, at the end of the day, it hasn't stopped anybody getting their visa, and it just means the due diligence on the finances mainly has to be done. You know, beforehand. It's a lot tighter.
Jolly good. Laronda says, that's the problem. Every consulate is doing their own thing. They also say thank you. Now, whereabouts did you say you were from? Did you say you were from California? Or was that? Yes, California.
So that'd be Los Angeles, wouldn't it?
I don't know. Yeah, I assume so. Have they got more? They used to have one in San Francisco.
Or San Fran, yeah.
Yeah, maybe there's one further up as well. Because it's a long state, isn't it? There you go. So make sure, by the way, everybody, that you smash that like button into smithereens, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. Laronda says, air fried chicken. Yeah, it's very nice. We found that we can cook it exactly right in the air fryer. And we've also got a thing that you stick in it that tells you the temperature, which is something new for us. We always used to just know from sort of messages from the ether whether the chicken was cooked in the oven or not. You just get used to your oven, really. So anyway, enough about that. I'm getting hungry. So goodie bag, Chris. Let's give somebody a prize. Ooh. Can you post to America?
Only flat stuff. Only things that look like a letter, unfortunately, but I can do. You can have a fan and a folder.
Lovely. So Laronda, send in your details to Chris on an email at it's youtube@upsticks.es. I have to keep trying to remember that. And he'll send you a goodie bag. And
let us know if it arrives. Let us know if it arrives and take a photo, because I never know if they arrive. I sent one to the States last couple of months ago. I never heard back. If it got there or not.
Yes, and they're saying the state is divided between LA and San Francisco. Yes, so there you go. That is good to know. And which office, which one would you go to out of the two? That'll be handy to know for next week. So, yes. And who else hasn't had it? Well, maybe Jose Elizondo Music. Maybe. I'm presuming. I shouldn't be presuming. Are you in Spain? It's a Spanish name by the sound of it to me. Or you could, of course, be over in Latin America.
Yeah.
Let us know where you are and send that email, Jose. And there you go. So those are the two prize winners for this week. Congratulations. And that is about all we have time for this week. Hover over that QR code and buy me a coffee or three if you haven't already. And in a few moments, I'll tell you who my expert guest will be next week. But for now, let's give Chris a big virtual kiss and a hug and say goodbye for now. Well, we won't see you again on here until December the 8th, which is the public holiday. We might have to record that show in case you're doing something with the family on that day. And I might be busy myself.
Yes, it might be recorded.
Yeah. So
it might be working.
Yeah, absolutely. But on that show, we'll be having a look back. It's going to be a retrospective on the whole of 2025, and we'll have a bit of a laugh at everything that's happened with YouTooSpain and Upsticks and Spain in general. That should be lots of fun. And the week after that is December the 15th. It's the Christmas show. So make sure you join us for that one. That'll be fun too. And we'll be looking forward to 2026 in that one as well. So have a great week, everybody, especially Chris. And goodbye for now.
See you later.
Bye. Well, wasn't that groovy? Yes, of course it was. So who do we have on next week's show? It's a completely new guest. His name is Steve McLemore. I hope I've pronounced that surname right. I just call him Steve. He's American. He moved over here a couple of years ago, I think. Maybe, is it 3 years now? And he's now helping other US citizens to move too, using his experience. He only lives down the road here in Computer. So put the date in your diary. It's Monday the 24th of November. And I will see you then. In the meantime, keep your eyes on the Facebook group and page for any more details. And I'll see you on the Friday video at 6 o'clock Spanish time. Everything's at 6 o'clock Spanish time in the evening. And of course, next Monday live at 6 p.m. Spanish time. And the video on Friday is going to be all about, let me just have a look at my thing now. It's going to be called Moving to Spain in 2026, The Harsh Truths that Nobody Tells You. Oh, there you go. That's going to be very handy for everybody. So look out for that one. And someone pass around the new rules cookies. Peas and fluff, my friends. And I'll leave you all with a message from the voices in my head here at YouTooSpain. Bye-bye for now. Wave goodbye, lads. Bye. Goodbye. Toodaloo. Peace and love. Peas and fluff. Oi, oi. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. One more cosmic dance? All right, then. Look, Mum, I'm dancing. Oh, I'm all a quiver. Let's dance.